Good morning, students. We'll wait for 1 minute so that everybody can join us. If my screen is visible to you, say screen is visible. Reply in the comment box if screen is visible to you. Okay, brilliant. The screen is visible. Let us start. So today's class is going to be one of the most crucial class as far as your examination is concerned, because we are going to touch upon the last part of chapter 3. So today is going to be the last revision class for chapter 3. How much is possible till 1 o'clock we will cover, and I will try to cover maximum portion, and I'll also ensure that you will understand what you are reading. Okay. Now, what is that we are going to learn now? So in our previous class we have completed up to question 21. Okay. So before I directly start with question number 22, I'll just give you a summary of what we have discussed. See, chapter number 3 is all about controls. Okay, now again, what is control? Control means the policies and the procedures which are put in place so that the business objectives are achieved and undesirable activities are either prevented, detected, or corrected. That is a classic definition that you can have to understand what is a control. So we were talking about in our previous class what is preventive control, what is detective control, what is corrective control. Then we started to talk about certain access controls. Okay, so we said there is physical access control. Now, what do you mean by the word access? The word access actually means entering. Okay, entering. Now, how do you stop a stranger from entering your house? By having proper doors. Okay, so this is called as you're preventing a stranger from entering your house by having proper physical access control, because how he can enter only physically. Okay, so that is something called as physical access control. Then we studied something called as logical access control. Now, what is logical access control? Let us say while you were traveling in bus, you lost your mobile phone and somebody found your mobile phone. Now, they have physical access to your phone. They're holding your phone in their hand, but still they cannot get into your phone. They cannot get into your application. They cannot get into your data. Why? Because there is logical access control. Now, what is logical access control? Logical access control means the person, if he wants to enter your device, he has to enter some sort of password, some sort of PIN or fingerprint or retina or face scan. So all these things, we call it as what? We call it as logical access control. Okay. Now, let us start with question number 22. And in EIS, when it comes to examination, it is not that you don't know the answer. Okay. Most of the time, students knows the answer, but they don't understand the question. That is where whenever you're reading the answer, read question more than once. Okay. The question here they say, explain the logical access control measures under operating system access. Okay, now, so in this question, they are using two words. One is they're talking about logical access control. So, logical access control means you are physically not protecting the device. We are thinking that somebody has access to your device. Maybe your phone, maybe your laptop, maybe your computer. Somebody is sitting right in front of your computer, or somebody is holding your mobile phone in their hand. And now the question is, how are you going to prevent him from accessing your device unauthorizedly? Okay, without authorization, he should not be able to log into your device. So they are talking about talk from the context of operating system access. Now, what is operating system access? Whenever you are turning on your laptop or Windows computer, first that Windows screen will appear. There they will ask, choose the user. Who are you? Whether you are admin, whether you are a guest, or whether you are a user. So let us say you clicked yourself and you said you are an admin. Okay. Once you say you are an admin, then what happens? Once you say you are an admin, they will say enter the password. Okay, they will say enter the password. Correct. Now, same way. So these all things are called as controls. Now let us study one by one point. First point is automated terminal identification. Now, what do you mean by automated terminal identification? This means that some activities can be done only in some computers. I'll give an example to you. Let us say that in an organization, there are 10 computers. Okay, so one computer is used by the owner and rest 9 computers are used by his staffs. Now the staffs, what can they do? They can enter some details into the system, but staff should not be allowed to delete transaction from the system. Staff should not be allowed to delete transaction from the system. Now it should be only allowed by which computer? It should be only allowed by the owner's computer. Now let us say your staff tries to delete some entries. Your system should detect which is the terminal. Terminal is which is the computer which is trying to delete it. Okay. Now, so your system should be in a position to identify which is the terminal, which is the computer which is trying to do some things in your computer. Next one is terminal login procedure. Now, what is terminal login procedure? We already discussed that whenever you're trying to log in, they will ask for your password. That is something called as terminal login procedures. Even if you say I forgot password, then there is a mechanism to reset the password. So everything put together, we call it as terminal login procedures. Now, next one, okay, this is little technical, okay, something called as access token and access control list. Now, what do you mean by access token? Let us say this is your computer, and whenever you open the computer, they will ask, who are you? Are you an admin or are you a user or are you, let us say, are you a guest? Okay. Now, let us say you said you are a admin. Okay, let us say you said you are an admin. Now, how will your computer understand that you are an admin? The moment you click you are an admin, they will ask for your password. So now you should put admin password. You should put admin password to enter this system. Okay, so if you put user password, they will say the password is wrong. Okay, now let us say that you clicked on saying that you are an admin and you have entered admin password. Okay, now system understands that you are an admin. Now the moment the system understands that you are an admin, then it will allow you to do certain things in the computer. For example, if you're an admin, then let us say you can install a software, you can uninstall a software. So this who can do? Only admin can do. But let us say you log in as a user. Now system will ask, enter your user password. So the moment you enter user password, system will open. The same computer will open, but it may happen that they will not allow you to install a new software, or they will not allow you to uninstall an existing software. Now the question is the computer is same, it is the same computer. Now have you ever thought that how does computer understand who you are once you log in? Answer is whenever you log in, your computer creates something called as access token. Okay, it creates something called as access token. Access token simply means who is this person? Okay, who is this person? Now whenever you log in as an admin, an access token is created which says this user who is using the computer right now is an admin. Okay, next is there is something called as access control list. Now what is access control list? It says this contains information that defines the access privileges of all valid users of the resources. That is, one system understands that this user is an admin, then system will also define what this admin can do. Whether admin can create, whether admin can delete, whether admin can modify. So everything is done with the help of access control list. Okay. Next, we have something called as discretionary access control. Now, what is this discretionary access control? That is, you may have, let us say, you may have 10 staffs who are working for you. Okay. Let us say all the 10 staffs are accounting staffs. Okay. They're all accounting staffs. Now, you need not give them equal rights. When I say equal rights, that is equal access rights. Maybe out of this 10, you may say one who is the chief of accounting, he has all the access. He has all the access. Maybe you can say rest four people can create, can modify, but they cannot delete it. You may say that remaining 5 can only create and they can't even modify. Now, this is something called as discretionary access control. Now, whenever I say discretionary access control, you mean to say that there is one person who is sitting in the IT department and now he is giving these access rights and this keeps on changing. Okay. Next one is, one more thing that we need to learn is user identification and authentication. Now, this identification and authentication are two different things. Most of the times, students, wrongly understand what do you mean by identification and what do you mean by authentication. They end up thinking these both things are same. A slight difference is identification means identification is equal to who. Okay, who, and authentication means what can he do. Okay, this is the difference. Now, whenever I say admin, this is identification. I need to put password. So system identifies that, okay, he is an admin. Now, once I'm an admin, what are the things that I can do? That is told in authentication. Okay, that has to be configured. Next one is password management system. Okay. Now, what is this password management system? See, now imagine this is your computer. Okay, this is your computer, and whenever you are logging in, one screen will come and they will ask enter your password. It is slightly technical, so I want you to stay and I want you to understand this slowly. So they will ask you to put your password. Now, once you put your password, the question is, how does the system understand? How does your system understand that this is the right password? You are putting the password. How does the system understand that this is the right password? So then you need to go back. Okay, go back and understand how do you create the password. So the day you purchased your computer, you said that, I want to have a safer or secure login. So what did you do? You created a password. Now this password is stored somewhere in the system. So let us say your password is welcome @1. So let us say this is your password. So this password you create on day 1 of purchasing the computer. This you created. Now, this password is stored somewhere in your system, somewhere in your laptop, it is stored. Now, every time you come and enter your password, your computer compares whether the password matches with the password which was created on day 1. If the answer is yes, it will say welcome. If the answer is wrong, it will say incorrect password, try again. Okay. Now the problem is, I said this welcome @1 is stored somewhere in your laptop only. So the question is, can somebody find this password? Because it is anyway stored in your laptop only, in your computer only. The answer is, you should avoid storing it in the clear text. Okay, it should be stored somewhere, something in we call it as in ciphertext, using some hashing algorithms. Now again, you will be like, what is this hashing algorithm and other things? Trust me, you don't have to learn in your CA curriculum. You don't have to know. All the thing that you have to know is, in your laptop, the password is there somewhere, but nobody can access it. Why? Because it is stored in a secure way. That you understand more than enough. Next one is use of system utilities. Now, this your operating system should also facilitate use of system utilities. For example, let us say on day 1, you purchase the computer and you said, let me create one user called as admin. Let me create one more user called as user. Let me create one more user called as guest. So 3 users you have created. Now let us say one small neighboring baby, okay, one small kid wants to access your laptop to play some games. Okay, now you can't say no. You want to give that computer to him so that he can play some games, but you don't want to give admin access, you don't want to give user access, nor you want to give guest access. So what system should allow you to do? A system should allow you to create one more user. one more user called as kid or child. Okay, and once he opens your laptop, only one game should be visible to him, which he can play, and he can give the system back to you. So your system, your operating system should allow you to do this. If your operating system does not allow you to do this, then you will be in a very tricky position. Sometimes you may also end up giving him the admin access only. Next one is duress alarm to safeguard users. Duress alarm to safeguard the users. If users are forced to execute some instruction under threat, the system should provide a means to alert the authorities. Okay. For example, let us say that you are a bank manager and you are sitting in the bank, and some robbers come. They hold the gun to your head and say that, transfer money from this account to this account. Okay, transfer money from this account to this account. For you to transfer money from one account to another account, you need to access your computer. So let us say, hypothetically, let us say, whenever you're entering the password, okay, let us say whenever you're entering password, there, if you have two types of password, one password is like, normal password, and one is an emergency password. Now, instead of, if you're using a normal password, that means on a day-to-day basis, you are entering normal password to do normal transaction. But because somebody is holding gun to your head, if you're using an emergency password, now emergency password, then what should happen? System should send information to the authorities. Authorities means the police department, saying that something is wrong. Okay, this is not a normal transaction, something is wrong. Okay, that should also be there. It also should be facilitated by your operating system. Then something called as terminal timeout. Now this you are aware, I am sure that you are aware. Let us say you are not using your mobile phone. Okay, let us say you are not using your mobile phone for 5 minutes. So you were doing something and you kept your mobile phone and you went, you did not lock it. Now what should operating system do? Operating system will automatically log out from the system, or it will automatically lock your system after some point of time. So that is called as terminal timeout. Okay, now next one is limitation of connection time. That is, let us say banks. Now we know that banks are open only on working days and not on the weekends. So let us say there is a computer in the bank. Okay, there is a computer in the bank, and what does one staff do? So staff wants to do some fraud. So he cannot do any fraud from Monday to Saturday because some other employees also will be there. So what he will do, let us say he comes to the bank. Let's say he has the key. So he opens the key, comes to the bank, and for him to do any transaction, he needs to have a system. So he sits in front of his system. Now he already knows the password. So the moment he enters his password, whether the system should open, answer is no, because it is Sunday. Anyways, it is holiday. So what should system say? The system should say, this is not a working day. Come back on Monday. So that is what we call it as limitation of connection time. So either you allow it only from Monday to Saturday, or from only 9 o'clock to 5 o'clock. After that, you should not allow any transaction. So that is question number 22. If you have any question, you can ask. Okay. Now, let us go to one more question. That is question number 23. Again, a little technical question when you're reading on your own. Okay. So explain the logical access control measures under application and monitoring system access. Now, what do you mean by application and monitoring system? Okay. I'll put it this way. Let us say you go to a shopping mall. Okay. You go to a shopping mall. So in this shopping mall, all the goods are kept in the racks. So whatever you want, you can directly pick. Now imagine one person, instead of picking the goods and putting in his cart, he puts in his pocket. Let us say he is just going by the shopping, all the racks, and he finds some good pen or one chocolate, and he says, okay, let me not pay for this. So what is going to do? Instead of putting in his cart, what he will do, he will put it in his pocket. Now, unlike your clothing apparels, this chocolate or pen does not have a magnetic device. So even if you don't pay, When you exit, it will not create any beeping sound, or it does not create any alarm. Now the question is, then everybody would have done this if this was the case, but still they don't do this. Why? Because there are CCTV cameras everywhere. There are CCTV cameras everywhere. Now, not the CCTV camera. So in every shopping mall, there will be one small room. Okay, in one small room where there will be people who will be monitoring the CCTV camera. Okay, so we call this entire thing as monitoring system. No, not just this. Let us say that you are trying to log in to your banking application, net banking. So what will you do? You will open your web browser. After opening your web browser, you put your ID and password. Now, if your ID and password is correct, you will be given with the login. Now, imagine this. Normally, you log into your banking server from your own place. That is, let us say your home or your office or from your school or college, but within your that same district. Okay. Now suddenly somebody tries to log into your banking server or net banking using the right ID and password, but not from India. Okay, somebody sitting in South Africa tries to access your banking server or your banking account. Now, even in the banks, there is one monitoring department. Whenever usually your login is happening from your hometown, but suddenly one more login is attempted from South Africa, the system will immediately raise a alarm. The system will say something is wrong with this transaction. And sometimes you will automatically get a call from the bank saying that, sir, did you try to log in? Did you try to log into your bank? Or sometimes it may happen, normally you are just making some local purchases. Okay, you are just making some local purchases, but one day you directly paid some 30,000 rupees and you made some international transfer. Okay, from directly from India to America, you transferred some amount of money. Immediately you will get a confirmation call from the bank saying that, sir or ma'am, the amount of 30,000 rupees has been debited from your bank account. Did you make this transaction? Just give the confirmation. So this is called as monitoring system. Okay, so in every organization there is an entire team who does the monitoring activity. They do what type of monitoring? They do the application monitoring. Okay, application monitoring in the sense, I give an example. Normally you access from Indian servers, but suddenly an access has been requested from South Africa. Okay, so now there is an entire department who does this control. Now they are talking about explain the logical access control measures under application and monitoring system access. So they have their own department. They have their own department to monitor all the each and every transaction. Now the question is, how do you protect them? One is information access restriction. Information access restriction means your normal department, let us say your purchase department or your sales department should not have access. Okay, they see everybody uses the computer. Purchase department uses a computer, sale department uses a computer. So whatever these people do in their purchase department and sales department is being monitored by a monitoring system. Okay, so there is a separate department who monitors this. Now the question is, only these people should be able to monitor purchase and sales department, not the other way around. Okay, so the first point what they are saying information access restriction. That is, purchase department and sale department should not be able to access any information from the monitoring system. That is point number 1. Next one is sensitive system isolation. That is, let us say this system or this computer have certain sensitive informations. Okay, because they monitor all the departments, no, so they have certain secret informations also with them. So you should not directly connect them to the network, because if you connect them to the network, what happens? Everybody can access this information. So what are you going to do? You are going to isolate them. Self isolate means you are going to keep them aside or disconnect them from the normal network. So that also you should do. Next one is event logging. Now, what is event logging? Let me give an example to you. Event logging means, let's say, whenever you are accessing, let us say, you are again net banking account. You are accessing your net banking account. Usually, you put your password, you put your user ID properly. Okay, so you are supposed to put two information: user ID and password. So let us say you put your user ID properly, but you put your password wrongly. Normally, what do you do? In your first attempt only, you put the proper password. But let us say you put wrong password once, you put wrong password twice, but third time you put the right password. Now, system should understand that normally this person does not put the wrong password, but this time he has put 2 times the wrong password. Then normally what happens is, if you actually do it in the bank, then they'll suddenly ask you OTP, because they will say we have observed certain suspicious activity. So confirm that you are the same person by putting the OTP. Okay, that they do it. So now that can happen. That can happen when you do the event logging. What is logging? Logging means you're storing the information of the events, what is happening. So if you're putting wrong password once, putting the wrong password twice, sometimes you will get the call, okay, call from your organization saying that why are you entering wrong password again and again. Now, why are they calling? This may happen because it may happen because somebody is trying to guess your password. Okay. Now, this you might have seen. Sometimes Google sends you a message in Gmail. If somebody is trying to open your Facebook account by randomly trying your password, then Gmail will send a message. Sorry, Facebook will send a email to you saying that somebody tried to access your account. All these things are happening with the help of this event logging. Next point is monitor system use. Now in the organization, there might be different computers. Okay. Now I'll call it as computer 1, computer 2, computer 3, computer 4. Now in computer 1, 2, 3, all general activities are being taken. Okay, all normal day-to-day transaction. But let us say in computer 4, okay, some critical activities are being taken place. Okay, critical. So I'll give an example to you. Say this is a bank which has 4 computers. So in the first computer, second computer, third computers, normal transaction takes place. So all the data which is stored in 1, 2, 3 are very general data. But in computer number 4, all the customers' debit card details are there. So out of these 4 computers, which computer is very sensitive? That is, 4th computer is sensitive because it contains sensitive information about the users. So your monitoring department should closely monitor this computer. Okay. Now, because the risk is more. So who is accessing the system, at what time they're accessing the system, all these things should be monitored properly. Next one is clock synchronization. This is a very interesting point. What do you mean by clock synchronization? Let me give one simple example so that you can understand it. Say there is computer 1, okay, then there is computer 2, and then there is computer 3. Now, every computer, every device have time. Okay, even in your mobile phone also there is time, even in your computer also there is time, which you see on the bottom right side. Now let us say the time is set in this computer is 9 o'clock. Okay, the present time. Here it is 9:30 and here it is 10:15. So at any given point of time, the time of all these 3 systems does not match with each other. Now, why would somebody have different times? Don't know, because people are either ignorant about this, or on a particular or a specific purpose they have different time. Okay, for example, even in your home, the wall clock what you have, you may not have the exact time. Okay, sometimes if you're a student and if you have to go to school early, then what will you do? Normally they'll keep the clock 10 minutes, 10 minutes ahead of the right time. Okay, but here the problem is all the computers are connected to a network. Okay, all the computers are connected to a network, and there is one department which monitors all these 3 computers. Okay, but here the problem is, let us say some user does something in computer 1. Okay, so here the monitoring computer, you will record saying computer number 1, some transaction, we will call it as transaction 1 was done at 9 o'clock. At the same time, somebody does something at computer number 3. So you will say, okay, in computer number 3, transaction 2 was done at what time? At 10:15, because that is the time of computer 3. Then after that, somebody does something in computer number 2. But so what are you going to say with us? In computer number 2, transaction 3 has happened at 9:30. Now this is not possible. Why this is not possible is because log is always, log is always what we call it as uh, in a chronological order. So 9 o'clock, 10:15, then you cannot again store one more detail of 9:30. So to avoid these type of difficulty, organization should always focus on clock synchronization. That is, all the clock should at any given point of time should show the correct time and not the different time. I don't know whether you have seen it or not. Normally, let us say that in your computer, you go and change the time. Okay, change the time and set yesterday's date, or let's say tomorrow's date, and then try opening a browser. Try opening Google Chrome and request for a web page. The web page sometimes will not load, and it will say there is a time synchronization error. The time of your device and the time of the server does not match with each other. Okay, I don't know whether you have seen it or not, but normally you encounter this type of problems. Now we go to the one more concept. Now somebody is okay, so somebody is asking, what do you mean by log? Now log means, okay, I'll give you one simple example. Log means record. Log means record. Okay, so if I have to give one simple example about what log is, let us say this is your phone. This is your phone. Okay, at 12 o'clock, let us say you open WhatsApp. And use it for 5 minutes. Then at 12:10, let us say you open one more application, let us say Instagram, and you use it for 10 minutes. And at 1:30, let us say you open Netflix and watch something for 30 minutes. Now all these details of what you did in your mobile phone is stored in one small file. Okay, in small file, and this file is called as log. Okay, this file is called as log. Now let us say tomorrow, let us say tomorrow somebody wants to find out, okay, somebody wants to find out what you did today, and you will say from morning till evening I was studying. They will say, okay, give your phone. So you give your phone to them. Then they will go to this log file. Okay, if they can open this log file, the log file will tell what you did entire day. Okay, so that is what log is. I hope you understood what log is. Now about log, more about it I will tell when we are discussing about something called as audit trail. Okay, but as of now, if you understand, this is enough. There is one more question, that is discretionary access control. We discussed this point, what discretionary access control is. So discretionary access control basically means one person sitting in the IT department gives different access rights to different employees. That is discretionary. Discretionary means his choice. Okay, and it may vary from one person to another. So to one employee, he may say that you can install a software, you can uninstall a software, you can delete a software. He has all the rights, one employee. Another employee may have only right to install a software, but he may not have a right to uninstall the software or delete the software. Okay, so this, if a operating system can give you this type of right, where you can say who can do what in the system, then you call it as discretionary access control. Okay, now this question 24, very important for you to understand. Now what are the subsystems under management control? Now the question again comes is, what do you mean by management control? What do you mean by management control? Now, see, I'll give one example to you. Okay. Now, let us say that there is one company. Okay, there is an actual company, something called as Khata book. Okay. So, what does this Khata book actually do is they maintain details. Okay. So, let us say there is a vendor. I am nowhere related to Khata book, so I'm not marketing them. I'm just saying what is this application or what is this software all about. So Khata book is, let us say there is a vendor. Okay, this is a seller. Now he has, let us say, three buyers: buyer A, buyer B, buyer C. Now buyer A, buyer B, buyer C have purchased some item from the seller for credit. Okay, so A has to pay, let us say, 120 rupees, B has to pay 200 rupees, C has to pay 300 rupees. Normally in olden days, what people would do, they would write physically in one piece of paper saying that, what is the amount that is due from a customer. Okay, but this, they are digitalizing it. So instead of writing in a piece of paper, use an app to record this transaction. Not only recording. So what app does is they send reminders. They send reminders to these customers on a daily basis saying that this much amount is outstanding, and as and when they get these reminders, the customers will make the payment. Okay, now why am I saying this example is, let us say, now who developed this Khata book? Let us say one person. Okay, I don't know the name of the person. Let us say Mr. X. Okay, with another of his friend, let us call them as Mr. Y. They both decided, let us start this application called as Khata book. Now if you want to develop an application, you want huge amount of money. Okay, crores of rupees of money. Now directly you can't go and ask money from people because they will not give you. So they will say, well, see, first let us start in a very small scale, then let us build this application. Then once we start at a very small scale and it starts running successfully, then we can ask money for crores of rupees from the investors. That is how most of the startups work. Now the question is, these X and Y come together. Now what will they do? They will hire a software. So because they want a software, no, so they will hire a software development team. Whether they only want software, no, they also want system. System in the sense they also want hardware plus software. Okay, they want hardware, that is they want so many computers, so many servers, so many networking devices. So they will put small amount of money and they will procure their system. They will get this software development team ready and they will develop this software. Now let us say this software is ready. In, let us say, in 2018, and they try to roll out to the customers. And once it is successful in 2020, they go to some big company or big investor and they will say, look, we already have, let's say, what, 2000 customers and they're very happy with our software. Now we want to grow our software. To the next scale, for which we want funding. We want, let us say, 50 crore rupees. Give us 50 crore rupees and we will give you, let us say, 30% shares in our company. They will say like this. Now the question is, why should a investor give 50 crore rupees to this company? Or before this company gives this 50 crore rupees, they want to know whether their money will be safe in the hands of X and Y, for which they will hire an auditor. Now what will this auditor do? Okay, one is, there are two things what he is going to check. One is, he is going to check the application. He is actually going to check that software, whether this software is properly functioning. Okay, or does it do what it promises that it will do? That is the one point. Next point is, he will see whether management is proper. Okay, because at the end of the day, if management is not proper, they are going to misuse the money. So there are two things. So audit function, okay, On the basis of audit function, we can check two aspects. One is we can check if the application is proper, whether this Khata book, that application is there, no, whether that software, whether it is proper. That is the one thing that he is going to check. Another thing what he is going to check is whether this management is proper. So when I talk about management, I am not talking about application. I am talking about whom? I am talking about humans. I'm talking about humans. Now in the organization, humans are at various levels. There is at the top level, there is somebody. In the software development team, there is somebody. In the system development team, there is somebody. In the help desk, there is somebody. So in the operational level, there is somebody. So when this auditor comes, he's going to check people or humans at all different levels. So this is called as checking at manage. So this is something called as management control. Now what is management control? That is whether everything in the organization when it comes to management decisions are done in a proper way or not. Okay, so now, so do not confuse. Whenever you look at the word something called as management control, we are talking about the auditor is coming and saying whether management is happening properly in the company or not. He is not going to look at a software, he is going to look at the humans. So here there is a top management. Now who are these top management? I said in our example, who are these top management? X and Y, these two people coming together and deciding that we need to build up this application. So an auditor should come and check top management and information system management controls. That is a one point. Next is X and Y hires, let us say, they'll say, okay, we want this hardware, we want this software, okay, all these things they will say, and they will try purchasing those things. Now, an auditor should see, okay, whether this hardware was actually required or not, whether this software is actually required or not, that also he has to see. Next one is programming management control. That is, let us say they purchased hardware, they purchased some software. Now they're developing this new software called as Khata book. Now Khata book may take, let us say, 12 months to develop. Okay, it requires 12 months to develop. Now there has to be this auditor has to check how did they do what they did in this 12 months, whether it was in proper planned manner or not planned manner. Okay, about this we will talk next. Next one is data administration, resource management control. That is now when they rolled out and let's say they have 2000 customers initially. Now all these 2000 customers will store some data. Okay, let us say I am a vendor and I have 10 customers with me. So if I'm using a Khata book, what am I going to do? I am going to store the details of my 10 customers. Now this details has to be kept in a very, what do I say? In a very secret way or confidential way. So this auditor has to check whether this is kept at a confidential way or not. Next one is quality assurance management control. Now what is this quality assurance? See, quality assurance basically means, now Khata book. Okay, now if I'm going to talk about Khata book, now Khata book contains data of every vendor and their customers. Now, can they store this data anywhere they want? No, they have to store data in a prescribed manner, in a prescribed way, in a prescribed place. Now, there are so many organizations which gives you quality assurance. For example, I guess you have heard something called as ISO 9001, or there is something called as ISI. Normally, you see it in your helmets. That what does this ISI actually mean? This is a standard. Okay, so if a helmet meets certain standards, that is, even if it falls down, it is not going to break, or even if one meets with an accident, this helmet is going to protect his head. So if it goes through that quality assurance process, then you can put that seal on that helmet. Now, if you are purchasing as a customer, if you are purchasing two helmets, one without ISI hallmark and one with ISI hallmark, which one you are going to purchase? You will purchase the ISI hallmark one. Now the question is why? That is because you place more reliance if there is a quality assurance. Okay, so same way, even the auditor is going to check. Even the auditor is going to check whether this Khata book has certain quality assurance, whether ISO 9001 is there or some other quality assurance standard, if there is any other company which says that the quality of development of application is done in the right way. Next, we have something called as security administration and management control. Now again, the auditor will come and check how security is taken care in this organization, whether security is taken seriously or not. Then rest explanation is very general. Next one is operation management control. Now, see, first we spoke about top management. So top management has a long-term vision. They say what should be done in the future, but what should happen in the short day-to-day function, that is decided by operation management control. So the auditor is going to come and also check whether operation is happening properly or not. Okay, so this is just a, what do I say, this is just a brief about them. If you actually look at your study material, there is ocean of information, but those information is not necessary. If you understand this much, more than enough. Okay. Okay, now let us look at question number 25. Explain the function of top management. Again, top management, we are talking about whom? We are talking about Mr. X and Y, and IS management in the context of IS control. So we are talking about top management. So what are these? So whenever you are going and checking whether X and Y did the right thing or not, what are the things that you are going to check? You are going to check whether planning happened properly, whether organizing happened properly, whether leading happened properly, whether controlling happened properly. These are the 4 things what you check. Now, what is planning? Planning is X and Y sat together and they discussed where they stand today. Okay, where they stand today and what is their goal? What is their goal that they want to achieve within 1 year or within next 2 years or within next 5 years, and whether it is properly documented or not. Now, planning in the sense, let us say they said, let us come with an application called as Hatha book. This is the first plan they had. Now, next plan that they're going to have is, okay, let this function in entire India, not just one state, for the entire India. Now, who are going to be our customers? Our customers are going to be small vendors. Okay, so this is also recorded. Next, what is their next step? For them to develop this software, they will hire a team, or they will form a team, something called as IT steering committee. Okay, they will form a team, something called as IT steering committee. Now, this IT steering committee will consist people from various departments. Somebody from, let's say somebody from sales department, somebody from purchase department, somebody from technical department. So who will come together and they will give their inputs. Okay, that is the first thing is, as an auditor, you need to check whether planning happened properly or not. Next, you appointed an IT steering committee. Now, for the IT steering committee, for them to work, they want certain systems in place. Okay, certain systems in place. For example, they will say IT steering committee will say, we want, let us say, 60 developers. We want 60 developers and 30 testers. So 60 people to develop and 30 people to test. Now, in organizing, what you do is you hire those employees, you hire those people. So you also see whether the hiring happened properly or not, whether there was required training which was given or not. So all these things you check. Next, afterwards, the next step is leading. Leading is, once you have employees, it does not mean that they will work properly. So you need to create enough motivation in your team. Okay, and you need to ensure that all these, let's say 90 people are working and working towards a common goal. So that also you will check whether leading happened properly. And last one is controlling. That is, initially they planned saying that, within the next 12 months, our beta version or the demo version should be ready. Now you need to see, initially they planned everything should be ready by 12 months, but at the end of 12 months, was it ready? Whether there was somebody constantly checking the progress. Okay, if it is taking more than 12 months, whether somebody is taking care of this, or whether it is already approved or it is not approved, all these things has to be taken care. Okay, next, what are the various activities performed under system development management control? Okay, so now here it is. What are the various activities performed under system development management control? Simple thing. So what basically happened? Khata book, they said we will develop Khata book, and IT steering committee said we will want how many? 60 plus 30 employees. Okay, so now employees are ready, but you don't have computers with you. Let us say you don't have computers with you. You don't have proper networking devices with you. If you are talking about a huge company, it has to have everything. So the next step is system development management. Now, what is basically the system development management is they're trying to develop the system. Now, system development is a bigger concept. In software development, we are just developing a software, but in system development, we are talking about purchasing the computer, purchasing the network devices, hiring the employees. Everything comes under system development. So they are talking about system authorization activities. System authorization activities. So here, let us say we IT steering committee said we want 100 computers. We want 100 computers. We want, let us say, 10 printers, and we want some network devices. Okay. Now, just because IT steering committee said that we want to purchase all these things, should you directly go ahead and place the order? Answer is no. There has to be a proper authorization activity. Okay, so all system must be properly and formally authorized to ensure their economic justification and feasibility. That is, you should first get quotation from different vendors. You should see who is the credible vendor, and at what is the cheapest price you can procure this, and whether do you really require it. Only then you should purchase. That is called as proper system development. Or else there was this company, let me not name them. So what they did is uh, somebody decided, let's start this company. Okay, something to do with online coaching itself. Let us start this company, and they hired around 200 staffs. Okay, on day one they hired 200 staffs, and for all the 200 staffs they gave Apple MacBook. Okay, of which is expensive. So they said that we will purchase only high-end things, but in the first 6 months only, they ran out of money and they closed down the company. So this is what happens. So this is where you need to see managerial control, whether management is taking proper decision or not. If they are not taking the proper decision, then the company will be closed. So first activity what you check is system authorization activity. Who is placing all these purchase orders, whether it is placed properly or not. Next one is user specification activities. That is, let us say this X and Y. These X and Y have come together and they say that we want to develop what? Khata book. To develop this software, let us say, instead of having their own in-house employees, let us say they give this contract to one company called as Infosys. So now, who is the person who is developing this software? The Infosys is developing the software. Now, but for the Infosys to develop the software, they need to have proper requirement received from X and Y. Okay, so only when X and Y gives the proper information requirement to Infosys, only then Infosys will be able to develop this software, or else they will not know what to do. Okay, so as an auditor, you go and see whether X and Y have given the proper specification to Infosys. On the basis of that, whether this software is developed. So you check that as well. Next one is technical design activities. See, all these things very general points. Okay. Next, internal auditor participation. That is, in developing the software, the internal auditor also should take part. Next one is, before rolling, it has to be tested properly. Tested by whom? If Infosys is doing this, it should be tested by Infosys first. Then user should test it. That is, in Khata book, directly before say giving it to vendors, Khata book also tested from their side. I'm not going to dwell more into those general questions because there are some questions which are very technical and which requires explanation. Any questions, you can put it. Next. Proper EIS controls can be exercised during every stage of SDLC process. Okay. Now, What is SDLC? SDLC means software development life cycle. Okay, SDLC means software development life cycle, or they can also call it as PDLC, that is program development life cycle. So let us continue with the same example. I'll keep it simple. Let us say there is Khata book and then there is Infosys. Now Khata book is a company and they want to develop a software, and who is developing the software? The Infosys is developing this software. Now an auditor should check this Infosys. Okay, he's not actually checking the Khata book, he's actually checking Infosys, saying that whether they are developing softwares properly. So first one is planning. Okay, planning, that is, now Infosys, so Khata book will tell, I want this software in 12 months, and for this software development we will pay you 2 crore rupees. Okay, so this is the proposal which is made by Khata book, saying that we want software within 12 months for the budget of 2 crore rupees. Now Infosys should plan whether this software can be done for this 2 crore rupees within 12 months. So to develop this software, how many employees should we want? Let us say Infosys says, okay, to develop this software, we want 10 employees. So whether the 10 employees are actually there or not, okay. If not, then they have to be hired. So what is the first step of developing a software? That is planning activity, whether it can be done within 12 months with the budget pay. That is the first activity. Next one is control. Control is, let us say Infosys agrees, saying that okay, within 2 crore rupees, within 12 months, we will do this software. Now, from day one, it has to be, properly planned and executed. If Infosys cannot say at the end of 12 months, saying that this is the big software, I want 3 more months, I want 6 more months. So there has to be proper control. Now, the control has two major purposes. Task progress in various software lifecycle phases should be monitored against plan, and corrective action should be taken in case of any deviation. Now let us say Infosys says there are 4 steps in developing this software. Let us say stage 1, stage 2, stage 3, stage 4. Now they may say stage 1 should happen in the first 4 months, then stage 2 3 months, stage 3 let us say again 3 months, stage 4 2 months. So now this is the time what is allocated for each stage. Now at the end of the 4th month, the Infosys should check whether stage 1 did happen or not. If it did not happen, then Infosys should see whether they can actually deliver the software within next 12 months or not. If not, then they need to get approval for the longer period. All these things they do it. So you don't have to know this, you just have to generally understand what they do. Next, control over software development, acquisition, and implementation tasks should be exercised to ensure software released for production use is authentic, accurate, and complete. Simple thing. That is the end of the 12th month. At the end of the 12th month, whenever you give the software to Khata book, you need to ensure that the software is complete in its all aspect. How are you going to do this? You are going to do this by having a proper testing. Okay, we will talk about it. So next one is design. What is design? See, even if you're talking about, if you're talking about building a house, okay, the first step is what? First step is planning, correct? That this is the site where we want to build the house. What is the next step? That is control. That is, you hire contractors, you tell them, what do you tell them? Can you do this house within the next 6 months? Because at the end of the 6th month, I want the house. So you enter into a proper agreement. Next one is design. You hire an architect who will design how the house should look like. Okay, it is not that suddenly somebody will come and start constructing. No, there is a first design thing what will happen. After designing is done, then coding will happen. So coding is actual construction of a software, but designing is telling how the software should look like or how should it function. Next is, once the house is ready, before you actually move in the people, what do? You test the house, whether there is water leakage or whether there is some other problem in the house. So same in the software also, you do the testing part. So testing can be further divided into unit testing, integration testing, or whole of program testing. So now what is this unit testing? Let us say, forget Khata book. Let us say you develop one ERP. Okay, so ERP means there are many modules in it. So there is an accounting module, there is a sales module, there is purchase module, there is inventory module. So there are different departments. Now, when you check it, you check individually. You check accounts, whether it is proper or not. You check sales, whether it is proper or not. You check purchase software, whether it is proper or not. You check inventory software, whether it is proper or not. So this is called as unit testing. This is called as unit testing. Next, integration testing. What is integration testing? See, what is ERP? ERP means all the softwares are connected to each other. All the softwares are connected to each other. So in integration testing, what you do is you check this, you check this integration, whether softwares are connected to each other properly or not. Okay. So what is unit testing? Individually, when you check, this is unit testing, individually checking. What is integration? That is whether these softwares are connected to each other in proper way or not. That is integration testing. Then you do the entire software testing at once. We call it as whole of program testing. So unit testing, checking individually. Integration testing is you check whether flow is proper or not. And whole of program testing means you are checking whether entire ERP is working properly or not. Next, operation and maintenance. That is, see, this sometimes is an examination question. Normally questions won't be this big. They will break the question and they will ask you a small part of it. So the question could be, write a note on operation and maintenance control. Or, if you're talking about software development life cycle, okay, let us say, I'll give the same example. Okay. Now, so there is Mr. A who hired a software developer. Let us call them as Infosys only. Mr. A has hired a software developer and Infosys is giving a ERP system to Mr. A. Now, this they did ERP in somewhere in 2016. They did in 2016 when there was, let us say, there was service tax. There was service tax. But in 2017, service tax was replaced with what? It was replaced with GST. Now, ERP has only which module? Which has only service tax module. It has only service tax module. Now, in 2017, Infosys should change this service tax module into GST module. So this activity, we call it as maintenance. We call it as maintenance. Now, there are different types of maintenance. One is repair maintenance. What is repair maintenance? That is, in 2016 only, there are some bugs in this software, some small errors in this software. So Infosys is fixing that bug and giving one patch or releasing one update. So this is called as repair maintenance. Next one is something called as adaptive maintenance. So adaptive maintenance, I said, from service tax to GST. So the law has changed, and to adapt with the new law, you are changing the software. This is called as adaptive maintenance. Next one, we call it as perfective maintenance. Perfective maintenance means, let us say, in 2016, to pass one entry, one journal entry, let us say it would take 10 seconds. It would take 10 seconds, but you may complain to Infosys saying that 10 seconds is too long time. Can you cut short the period? Okay. So Infosys will make some modification in the software by which you can pass one entry in just 2 seconds. So this is called as perfective maintenance. So what you're trying to do is you're trying to give the better version of the same software. Okay. So these are the three types of maintenance. Okay, so there is a question. Sir, are you going to revise CBS? Answer is yes, we'll be revising that chapter as well. That chapter also very technical in nature. So you need to understand what actually is told so that you can recall in your examination. Okay, so the next point. Outline the scope and significance of quality assurance management control. So this is what we were talking at that time. Now, what is quality assurance? Quality assurance means some organization, some agency comes to your company and checks how it is happening. If it is happening properly, then they will say this is good product. Okay. Now, why you want somebody to come and say your software is a good software or your product is a good product? Let us take some examples. Initially, we took the example of that helmet. Okay. So if you have two helmets, helmet 1 and helmet 2, in one you see ISI mark and one no ISI mark, some local helmet. Which are you going to purchase? You are going to purchase the one which has ISI hallmark, though it is slightly expensive than the other one. Because question is why? Why is because the customer wants a product which is assured by somebody. Okay. So now let us talk about outline the scope and significance of quality assurance controls. So why should you get this ISI hallmark, or why should you get ISO, or why should you get some other hallmarks? That is because now organizations are producing many safety critical systems where quality is an important evaluation criteria. Okay. Now, I don't know whether you have observed it or not. You go to any e-commerce website, there they will ask you, at the payment page, they will ask you to enter your debit card information or a net banking information. Now, as a user, you are always scared. What will happen if they misuse my data? Correct? Because you are a user, you are providing your data to, let us say, Flipkart. You are giving your data to Flipkart. Now, what if the Flipkart misuses your debit card data? So you don't directly trust Flipkart. So Flipkart, what will they do? They will take the help of an outside agency. Okay, let us say some outside agency. Let us say some antivirus company. Okay, let us say McAfee. Now, McAfee will promise the user, saying that all the data what you are providing to Flipkart will not misuse it. All the data which are providing it to Flipkart will not misuse it. I want you to go and check any e-commerce website. At the bottom of your payment page, there will be, it will be assured by, some companies, for example, McAfee or some other companies, which says even if you're providing your debit card information to this company, these companies are not going to misuse it. Okay. So now, what happens if Flipkart does not have certifications from McAfee? The answer is, as a user, you will not trust Flipkart. So the question is, why do you want quality assurance from somebody? Is because of this, to build user confidence. Okay. So that is the point. Here they are saying, what is the importance of it? Organizations are producing many safety critical systems. So payment gateway is a safety critical system where quality is an important evaluation criteria. As a user, you want to be certain that your data is not going to be misused. Next one is organizations are undertaking more ambitious projects when they build software. Same way. So now let us say there is a company called as Zoho Books. Okay, there is a company called as Zoho Books. It is a cloud accounting software. Cloud accounting software. Now, what do you mean by cloud accounting software? In simple word, you maintain your accounts over internet. Okay, so you can pass journal entry using your mobile phone, or you can pass journal entries using your computer, or you can pass using your iPad. So you just open your browser, put Zoho Books, put your ID password, then you maintain your books of account. Now the question is, you are the user. Okay, you are the user, and you are storing all your account details, how much money you have, from whom you are purchasing, to whom you are selling. All your accounting details is with whom? It is with Zoho Books. Now as a user, you will always think, what if Zoho Books misuses your data? Possibility is there. There is high possibility that Zoho Books may misuse your data. They may know who your customers are. Okay, and they may even sell the details of your customers to your own competitors. That possibility is there. When that possibility is there, then how can you trust Zoho Books? The only way you can trust is somebody else coming and guaranteeing, saying that this Zoho Books does not store your data, or they do not misuse your data. They do not access your data without your permission. So when companies build very ambitious projects like this, that is, we will maintain the books of our customer in cloud, There has to be somebody coming in and saying that, these companies are not doing any fraud. Next one is users are becoming more demanding, because now users also won't take anything for granted. They also want the certifications to believe that you are doing everything correctly. Next, organizations are becoming more concerned about their liabilities if they produce and sell defective software. Now let us say you uploaded all your accounting data to Zoho Books and somebody hacked into Zoho Book server and all your data are made public. Now as a user, you are going to file a case against Zoho. That is where even Zoho does not want to take risk. So they will approach McAfee and McAfee will check and McAfee will certify saying that this is proper. So even if somehow, somebody hacked into Zoho Books, you cannot file a case against Zoho Books because the McAfee already certified saying that they have taken all the reasonable care to safeguard your data. Next one is poor quality control over the production, implementation, operation and maintenance of software can lead to problems of missed deadlines or dissatisfied users, lower morale among IS staffs, higher maintenance and abandonment of the many strategic projects. See, if you're saying your employees do whatever you want, they will never do, they will always delay the project, or, they will always deliver you the substandard products. But if you tell your employee that, there is somebody who is going to come and check whether you're doing properly or not, only then they will do properly, only then they will deliver within the given period of time. That is where quality assurance is required. Next one is improving the quality of information system is a part of worldwide trend. That is also there. If you look at a website, whenever you look at a website, earlier days we used to have all this HTTP, now we have HTTPS. So why all the companies are shifting to more secure way of building a website? Why? Because everybody else is doing, that is where all the others are also doing. Simple as that. Okay, so any other okay, now let us talk about question 29. Okay, explain the functions performed under operations management control. Now again, the word management is there. So whenever you see the word management, what we are trying to do is we are trying to see whether humans are proper. Now, which human you are going to see? You are going to see humans or people who are there in which department? Operations department. Operations means the one who does day-to-day operation. Okay, so in a company, when we talk about there is an operation team, we are talking about people from sales department, we are talking about people from purchase department. So we are actually talking about sales managers, purchase managers, inventory managers. So we will go and check whether they are doing their job properly or not. First one is we will see computer operations, whether it is properly done or not. Network operations done properly or not. I'm not going to explain in detail this particular question because it is very general. Okay. We will now go to the question number 30. Now, what is question number 30? What are the types of application control? This is one important thing. So till now we were discussing about management control, and I kept on saying management control, what we see is in management control, what do we see? Whether humans are proper in organization. But in application control, what we see is whether application is proper. So here we are only talking about the software. We are only talking about what software is proper or not. Now, when we talk about application control, there are 6 controls under application control. I'll give you the summary about the 6 controls. Say, okay, let us say there is a ERP. Let us say there is ERP. Now, what is ERP? We have studied in chapter 2. Now, in ERP, there are various departments. There is accounting department. Let us say there is sales department, and then let us say there is purchase department. There is, let us say, one more department, that is manufacturing department. And lastly, let us say there is HR department. There might be many departments, but let us just stick to these 5 departments. Now, so as a company, you have asked, let us say TCS, okay, one more software company, to develop this ERP and give it to you. And TCS said, okay, and they have charged you 10 crore rupees. You have paid this 10 crore rupees and they have given you this software. Okay, now you're only auditing this whether the software is proper or not. You're just checking whether this software is proper or not. Now, when I talk about this software, how do I check? You check 6 things. You check 6 things. The first thing what you're going to check is whether boundary is properly set. Now, what is boundary? So let us say there is some guy, okay, some random stranger, or okay, he comes to this company when nobody is there. In the middle of the night, he opens the door, he enters this company and opens one computer, and let us say he also knows the password of that computer. Somehow he knows the password of that computer. He puts the password of that computer. The computer opens. So once he opens the computer, he can see, okay, let us say this is the computer. Here he can see one icon called as ERP. So when he double clicks on that, should the software open or should it also ask for a password? If it does not ask for a password, then any stranger who knows the system password can access or use the system. So whenever you're opening a software, the software should not allow a third party to enter the software. So that is, we call them as boundary control. What is boundary? Boundary is, something which defines who can enter and who cannot enter. So let us say this is a boundary. So to enter this boundary, only if you know the proper password, you can enter it, or else you should not be allowed to enter. Now, how can you define this boundary, or how can you say who can enter, who cannot enter? Maybe you can have proper cryptography, or let us say you can have password, or you can have PIN, or you can have identification card. That is, you swipe a card, only then the software will open. Or you should have biometric devices. That is, only if you keep your thumb or retina or your face, the software should open. Okay, that is what a boundary control is. So understood what a boundary control is? Okay. Now let us say, okay, that is first part, that is boundary control. Next, let us talk about something called as input control. Now, what is this input control? Input control means, let us say I am the employee. And I know what my ID password is. I open the software. Now I am going to enter some information in that software. Let us say I am an employee who is working in sales department. Working in which department? Sales department. So what am I going to enter in the system? In the system, I am going to enter sales related information. So if I am going to make any sales, I am going to enter this information in the system. Or customer creation. I am going to create, if there is a new customer, I am going to create this customer in the system. Okay. So let us say as an employee, I want to create a customer. So I click on that button. To create the customer. Now, so there is field where I'm supposed to put his name, then address, then let us say his GSTIN details, all the details I'm supposed to put. But let us say in the name column, where I'm supposed to put the name column, I put his name as 123. And then I put the proper address, proper GSTIN, and I click on save. Should system save this data? The answer is no. System should not save this data. Why? Because name cannot be 123. So system should give you a prompt saying that please check the name. The name has to be alphabets. It cannot be numerical. Okay. So if your software does this, then we say that there is a proper input control put in place. So whenever you are entering something in the system, your system should be able to identify whether it is proper or not. So one is input control, could be source document, data coding, batch control, validation, existence. So what are all these things we will discuss. One question we will take it up and we will discuss. Then we have something called as communication control. Now what is this communication control? See, I said in ERP, there are different departments: accounts, sales, purchase, manufacturing, HR departments. Now, these departments do not function in isolation. That is, all the departments are connected to each other and then they keep communicating to each other. So the communication needs to happen properly. Okay, so you have communication control, which is put in place to check whether communication is happening properly or whether there is some leakage of information. We will study that, how that is also done. Next one is we have something called as process control. We will talk about this. Then there is something called as database control, which talks about how the data is stored. Then we have something called as output control, that is, how the output is created. We will talk extensively on this. Then I don't know whether we will have enough time for something else. Now first one, we are talking about boundary control technique. So when we talk about boundary control technique, we can have cryptography, we can have password, we can have PIN, we can have ID cards, or we can have biometric devices to identify that we are the right users who can open this software. Only the software I'm talking about. Next one we are talking about, so that first control is boundary control. Next control we are going to talk about is input control. So what is input control? Input control means are responsible for ensuring the accuracy and completeness of data and instruction input in an application system, sometimes using data codes. See, now if I'm going to talk about input control, I told you instead of writing name, okay, instead of writing name, if I write 1 2 3, system should not allow, okay, system should say that this is the wrong name, okay. Or if I'm putting email ID, okay, let us say there is a place to write email ID, but instead of writing email ID, I'll write www. Let's say indigolearn.com. Now, as a user, you know that this is not an email ID, this is a website address, because it does not have what? Does not have @ symbol. So system should say that this is not a proper email ID. Simply, it should not store that information. Now, how can we do a proper input controls? So they will say there is a source document control, there is a data coding control, there is a batch control, there is a validation control. So under input control, we are going to study about 4 different controls. One is source document control. Now, what is the source document control? I'll put it this way. Say, I am working in sales department. Okay. So let us say sales department, there are 2 employees. There are 2 employees, employee A and employee B. Now, what is the function of employee A? Employee A, he issues invoices. He issues invoices. Okay. So whenever a customer comes, he sells, he gives the commodity to the customer, and he is going to issue an invoice. Now, this invoice, a copy of this invoice will be given to B. So let us say in one day, 10 sales did happen. 10 sales did happen. And now A will give those invoices to B. So B will enter these invoices in the system. Okay, so he is going to do the accounting part of it. Now, there are possibilities. Say A gave 10 invoices to B, but because of something, there was because of some error, B only got 8 invoices. Possibility is there, he somehow misplaced 2 invoices. So now B will enter only 8 invoices into the system. So 2 invoices not at all recorded. Okay, so we call it as error of omission. Now, how can you control this? How can you control this? The way you can control this is by having a proper source document control. Now, what is source document? For B to enter any data, he wants invoice from A. Now, A has to give invoices which are serially numbered. For example, invoice 1 number should be 1, then 2, then 3, then 4, then up to 10. So tomorrow when A is giving the invoice, it has to be from 11, 12, 13, and so on. Now let us say when A gave the invoice to B, let us say invoice number 5 and invoice number 6 are missing. So before entering invoice number 7, the B knows that 5 and 6 are missing. So he can immediately go and say that, I'm not getting 5 and 6. Then they can search for 5 and 6. Then once they get it, then they can pass the entry in the system. So that is called as source document control. Okay. So now let us say A, with an intention to create fraud, what he can do is he can issue multiple invoices in the same number, 10, 10, 10. Okay. So now when B is entering, whenever B is entering invoice number as 10, first time he enters, system will accept. Another time he is entering the same invoice number, system should say no, already 10 you have entered, either you delete the earlier invoice or you go and check which is this new invoice having the same invoice number. That is called as source document control. And we can have pre-numbered documents, that is the entire invoice number can be printed. It is not even manual somebody writing, it can be printed. And sequential use of document, that is whenever you're issuing invoices, it has to be issued sequentially. After 1, it is 2, then 3, then 4. Then periodical audit, there has to be somebody who comes and checks that, okay, so in the invoice book, there were 100 invoices, out of which let us say 20 are issued, and let us say 5 invoices are cancelled. So whether 75 invoices are still there. If it is not there, let us say only 73 are there, that means 2 invoice copies are missing. So where did they go? All those things you have to check. Okay. Okay. Any questions you have? Okay. No questions. Next one is, let us talk about explain the concept of data coding error. Data coding error. Data coding error means in the same example, that we are talking about A and B. We are talking about A and B. So A has issued invoices, let us say 10 invoices, and he has given all the 10 invoices to B. But B, while entering this data into the system, makes some mistakes. Okay, so this is something called as coding error. Now, what type of coding error it might be there? Maybe instead of writing invoice number 10, he may write invoice number 11. Typing error, printing mistake, what we call it as. Instead of writing 10, he may write 11. Or instead of writing the sale amount as 1000, he may write 10,000. So this document is proper, but only entering is wrong. So that is called as data coding error. So data coding error can be further divided into transcription error. Transcription error means instead of writing 1000, you are writing 10,000. Or you are writing, instead of writing 1000, you are just writing 100. So you are adding 10 or you are removing 10. This is called as transcription error. Then there is something called as transposition error. That is, instead of writing 986, you are writing 968. The same 3 words are you are using, or 3 numbers you are using, but in a different order. So error can be in a data coding error. It can be transcription error or a transposition error. Position is wrong. Now, one more. Okay, let us talk about one more concept, that is explain the concept of batch controls in the context of input controls. So under input control only, we are going to talk about something called as batch. Now, what is this batch? Batch basically means, let us say, there are these 10 sale transactions which happened in one day. Okay, there are 10 sale transactions what happened in one day. So you are entering this 10 sale transaction into your ERP. Okay, now how do you ensure that all the 10 sale transactions are entered in the system or not? So we use something called as batch control. So we have financial total, we have hash total, we have document record counts. Okay, I'll explain one by one. Now, first one is financial totals. Say, let's say, sale transaction is entered into the system. Okay, sale transaction is being entered. So let us say opening sale is nil. Okay, let us say you are starting the sale, no? So you make the first sale in a day. So first sale, the invoice number, let us say invoice number is 1. Invoice number is 1 and customer name, let us say X, and the value is, let us say, 2000 rupees. This is the first sale. So you have one more column called as total sale. So total sale for the day is 2000 rupees. So here point number 2, you are selling it to Y. Value is 5000 rupees. Your total sale is 7000. Next 3, you are selling it to Z for, let us say, 1000 rupees. Your total sale becomes 8000. Now, why are you having this total is, let us say while printing, even if you miss one transaction, let us say while printing by mistake, this transaction does not come. But because this total is there, you can see that, okay, the first total was just 2000 rupees. Then the total suddenly is 8000 rupees. That means there is a total of 6000 somewhere is missing. Sorry. Yeah. 2000 and here 8000. That means 2000 is there, 1000 is there. So total of 5000 is missing. You will understand it. So that is something called as batch control when it comes to financial totals. So whenever there is a financial figure is involved, you keep on totaling after every transaction. Normally we see this in passbook. After every transaction, they write the total on the last column. Then there is something called as hash total. Now hash total is a slightly complicated topic to understand. See, hash total basically means, okay, now let us say that there is this invoice. Okay, there is this purchase order. Let us talk about purchase order. So purchase order means I am selling this commodity and somebody has placed the purchase order. Now I received this purchase order. The purchase order says that they want 100 items for 2000 rupees each. They want 100 items for 2000 rupees each. Now, this file you are storing in your system. You are storing in your system. So let us say you saved in your system. You saved it. Now the question is, what if somebody comes and deletes this purchase order and saves one more purchase order, but they will change the price from 100 at 2000 at 100 at 1600. How will you get to know? So that is where you need to create something called as hash value. Okay, I know that if you don't know what hash value is, it is quite challenging for you to understand what hash value is. Okay, so even if you don't understand this, it is still okay. So hash value means a file will have its unique value. Okay, so let us say this is one PDF file what you have received. This is one PDF file what you have received. So you generate a hash of this. You generate a hash of this using some software. There is some software which generates the hash value. And let us say this hash value is some 32-bit character. Now, for example, A, B, C, D, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, like that, 132-digit line is there. So even if you change one word in this PDF, your hash value will change. So if you store the hash value, each time you create a file, if there is some change in that file, then you will get to know because you already have the hash of the old file. Then next one is you have something called as document record counts. We already discussed that, you have a file of 100 invoices. Sorry, you have 100 invoices. You see how much is issued, how much is cancelled, and how much should be there at the end of the period. So if it is not there, then you know that there is something wrong. Okay, so we are at 1 o'clock. Now, there are some more questions to be discussed, but we are as we have already short the time for today's recording. I'll wait for some questions if you have, or else I'll call up. No, so we'll end the class here. Okay. So there are no questions I see. If there are questions, you can put in the comment box. Then at a later stage, I can come and answer. Or else you can put the question in one pin application. There also I'll come and answer. Okay. All right. Let's see if in one more class for one more topic.